bucks, my water bill, 1 month. You know, I just wanted to get it started. Then,
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and start the meeting. I guess I can say welcome to everyone that's here. We've got several things to go through today, and I will say as the meeting gets started, our next meeting is the 22nd of June, and Jason from Baker Tilly will be here for our annual update on TIF districts. So he'll be presenting next month, well, technically this month, because this is technically our May meeting, so it'll be in our June meeting. So you want to put that on. For those that want to really understand how those things work, he's very informative. He understands it very well, and he's always willing to answer questions, so everyone's welcome to come to that. So we'll go ahead and start the meeting. First item we have on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Approval of the minutes from our April 27th meeting. Everyone should have had an email copy of that.
I just one quick question on that. The deadline for completing the hearings, July 1st, that just a date you come up with, or is that?
Which hearings?
We have a date right here for the redevelopment process, approved by Commissioner and Council.
Yeah, so that, the July 1 date is on Heather's schedule to get, it's for property transfers.
Okay.
Yeah. So Heather from Ice Miller has put together the process that we have to go through to get the property transferred from Perry County Memorial Hospital Foundation, or Board of Directors, to RDC, and that's part of that schedule.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah. But I need to abstain on without counting.
So any other comments, adjustments to the minutes? If none, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Then I abstain.
Paul abstained.
No.
You missed the last meeting, right?
Without counting.
You wouldn't hear.
Yeah. I kind of figured that. I figured I'd fill it in for you, Paul. TIF balances as of June 1, hot off the press, I might add. Allocation District 1, which is the courthouse, $259,870.75. I'm assuming, Pam, that's after everything's been paid out, that we've had bills for so far, or no? Mm-hmm. Okay. Wapaka 3, which we still actually have a bond issue on, is $226,308.20. Web Wheel, which we just paid the bonds off, that's why you're seeing such a dramatic change, $80,965.41. Riverview West, $3,434.60. Tell City 1 and 2, we're not collecting anything off of those districts at this point in time. The Web Wheel bond has been paid,
Yes,
and that's all been completed.
Yes, and as of Friday, we will be doing June settlement, so hopefully these balances should be increasing. And then in July, though, I have the second half of the bond payments.
Okay.
That still need to be paid.
For Wapaka.
Wapaka,
Okay.
yes. So,
Okay. So at the next meeting, then we're going to notice a change in our balances.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Really the main reason we have to do this meeting at this point in time, because the 15th of this month, we have to determine how much we're going to pass through on our TIF allocation areas. Just kind of for what we've been doing at this point in time, the courthouse TIF, which is this area here, which is TIF number 1, several years ago now, we voted to pass through to the taxpayers the 85%, so we're retaining 15% of the TIF dollars that come into this area, which goes into our pool, of course. So that's currently what we're doing. TIF allocation numbers 3 and 4 and 5, we're not passing anything through. So we're collecting all the TIF dollars on those districts. We do not have a choice on Wapaka 3 because we have bonds outstanding. Since there's bonds outstanding, we cannot pass anything back to the taxpayers because those bonds are primary resource, or the primary reason we have that TIF district. So we can keep it the same, we can discuss it, we can do what we want with the really TIF 1, TIF 4, and 5. So any thoughts? Did I say that correctly, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
My first thought, leave the way it is.
We have a thought, Paul mentioned just kind of stay where we are. Keep pass through what we're passing through and collect what we are. Any other ideas, thoughts?
We just got to keep in mind that Wapaka TIF, not Wapaka, the courthouse TIF expires in 2024 in about 2 years.
What the pocket does,
Yeah.
yeah, but so did the bond, this one here does too, yeah, this one here, that TIF 1 does.
What is the dollar amount? The bond for Web Wheel is paid off. What is the assessed valuation on that, in that area? Does anybody know that? For,
I don't know if it's on here or not, is it? Pam?
Don't think it's on there.
It just has your estimated dollar amount.
Okay.
Now, we will get that the next meeting.
I do not know, I didn't bring my book
But I,
tonight.
but
the
I,
one with Heather?
the one with Jason.
When Jason's coming, yeah.
That's too late for this decision today.
I know.
Yeah,
So I wish we had that.
I don't know.
I mean, if there was, I mean, it's Web Wheel, there could be as much as what, 20 million in AV there?
I don't think I have that.
I
Tony.
have no clue. It's all personal property taxes. There's
No, Web is personal and some,
Mostly personal.
it's 80% personal
That's right.
property
I'm sorry.
and 20% real estate.
Do you not know what it was last year?
Well,
Huh?
that's what I'm thinking.
Last year?
Let me go over and see if, while you guys are still meeting, I'll go do some looking.
Yeah, so the biggest chunk of the Web wheel, and we'll discuss that later on in the meeting, kind of the why behind that is equipment and what they would call personal property.
See why I'm asking? I mean, if you could still maintain funds and do it 50/50.
Well, I'll tell you, the only other thing that I have, and as you well know, I'm all in favor of passing this stuff through, is if we would need funding for the subdivision. Would be the
I
only.
understand that.
Would be the only reason that I would say, let's kind of see where we are.
Yeah, I get that, yeah, I understand that.
How
And
long
it-
is that one out? How long is that one last?
2034, I think,
I think you're right.
34 or 35, somewhere in there.
You're right.
So
That's a Web
the
Wheel.
TIF expiration not until 34.
34. I think John's right. I think it's
See what?
So,
They're gonna do
I
some work down
mean,
there.
just off the top of my head, even if we pass through 50%,
They've been
we
talking about
would
that for a long
continue
time.
to
I don't
accumulate
know.
funds for the next
But I think that's a whole
12
different.
years possibly.
Access roads?
What's that?
12 million is the assessed valuation?
You have it, Randy? 12? Kelly's got it.
Yeah, but,
So that's about what the courthouse TIF was, approximately.
Courthouse.
Substantially smaller.
I think we bring in on revenue on that thing around $260,000 or $280,000 a year, if I'm not mistaken, from the TIF capture.
I think that's right.
No, I believe, Randy, that's about how much AV was in the courthouse TIF.
Let's see. It's number one.
TIF, yeah, it's number
This
one.
increment was 9 million,
So it's in the, it's less, but not that much less.
well, 12 to 9.
Yeah.
Revenues at courthouse here is a little under 200,000.
And it's a little over.
276.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a thought too, guys. I mean, if you could pass 50% and maintain 100,000 coming in a year, that's a lot of money. I'm just throwing it out there.
No.
Just a thought. My whole goal, speaking, is to lessen the impact of tax caps. And every time you pass through AV, we're impacted over 670,000 this year. So you see the amount of assessed valuation it would take for the school to lessen the impacts of tax caps. So every millions you put through lessens that burden, and the more growth we get, the more it'll turn the corner on the impact of tax caps. It's just my thoughts.
And I'll resort to which is the last thing on our agenda, unfortunately, is the funding for the Forest Canton.
I understand that.
Because we've run into a few obstacles, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
Potential obstacles, I should say. So,
But we have to make that decision today.
we have, yeah, it is due by the 15th of June. It is due by the 15th. Our next meeting is the 22nd, so we have to make that decision today.
14th and 15th, because I just got notification
Yeah.
on your pass.
Yeah. Depends on probably where the weekend is, I think, I don't
Well,
know.
this just be for 1 year. Next year, we revisit it.
Huh?
Next year.
We can revisit it again next year. We revisit these on an annualized basis.
Adjust them as needed. It don't matter to me, you know.
So, I mean, I guess I'm gonna need is a motion to do something. One way or the other.
I'll make a motion to leave them the way they are for right now.
We do have a motion to leave them as they are. Do we have a second to that motion?
Try a different motion.
What's that?
Try a different motion.
I wish we had the better idea of what our needs were going to be.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's the variable.
I'll give you my thoughts on it, that we visit it next year.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
If we're here. I totally agree with you.
There,
I'm suspicious we're gonna need the funding.
that's kind of, yeah.
So, do we have a second to Paul's motion?
I'll second
We
it.
got a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Okay. That was painful. Ron, you came just in time. So Ron came, and we're going to update the apartments. And Ron and I have had a lot of conversations over the last 30 days. Some by text, some by, well, not much by email, but by phone. It's been a challenge, because we would love to see those things up and running by now. We understand there's been some challenges along the way. I don't know if Ron has any information to share with us, and maybe we just need to start there, Ron.
That's right.
Well, let's just start. The challenge is not just the challenge, the fact that you can't get a commitment for anything more than for 2 days after you get a price for something. So that's, you talk about a challenge, that's a challenge. But in the meantime, finally, we got the appraisal back, and it was basically what I wanted it to be. So, and the bank has approved us to, basically it's additional funds because it appraised for what I wanted it to. In other words, the way I understand it, my loan officer was out today, but their commitment is for 80% of the appraised value, which was $3.9 million. So that puts us in the ballgame where it gives us, where we should be able to do what we need to do. We do have some alternative funding at the end if we have to have it. We've got some of that put in place just in case. So we may have to bring a partner in to buy part of our part out at the end if we have to. So I mean, it's all, basically we're covering all our bases going into the project. So that we're gonna have it funded, that's the main thing. So at this point right now, I had a meeting with Chris at the town. We're on the agenda for the tax abatement on the 6th. At that point, we should have, the plans will be finalized. We will start immediately as far as going to go ahead and get a foundation release to start the project probably before the end of the month.
End of June
End of June.
2022.
We will start doing something. You know, I don't care if it's just what the town we have, you know, don't have it totally done, but the town's agreed to do a little bit of stuff for me because there's some sewer issues and water issues which does not affect, you know, there's a sewer line that runs through the property that we have to reroute, and there's another line that they need to do to tie 2 water lines together to make sure we have enough pressure for fire protection. And Chris basically, and of course I know he can't make the final decision, but said he'd do whatever he could to make that happen. Although we did have some money in there to tie some of that stuff in. So at this point, I'd venture to say we'll have permits. We should have foundation permits for the end of the month, and we will start ASAP thereafter that. So, and I think that, I think they've already ordered the legal work, the bank has. I think they did they send you that to you, Chris?
No, not yet.
Well,
Not
bank,
as of today, anyway.
anyway, they're starting the title work. so that part will be done. You know, but it can't go through until after the tax abatement part is finished with the town. And I assume, and I cannot speak for 100%, but that would be approved on the 6th.
And Ron and I've had this conversation. The challenge has been this thing is just drug out.
Absolutely, and part of it, I mean, part of it is my, you know, not, well, part of it's our fault, but part of it, you just can't get a commitment for anything any longer than 2 or 3 days for on pricing on anything. Zero. I mean, they won't give you a pricing on anything right now. It's good for the day you do it, that's it. You know, the pricing just changes that much. You know, sometimes that's pretty scary when the lumber package is $500,000 and, you know, it could change 5% in one day.
Does anybody have any comments, questions for Ron?
Has lumber prices fluctuate a little bit? I mean, have they come down some, then go back up?
A little
Or
bit,
they
but
just keep-
when the lumber comes down, vinyl goes up. There's a whole lot of vinyl. Everything you use in the house is related to petroleum, so that tells you anything. You know, vinyl floor covering, you know, vinyl windows, vinyl siding, everything has got plastic in it, fluctuates. Appliances, they've been all over the place. Plastic pipe went up $1 a foot last week for drain pipe.
Ron,
Just $1 a foot,
how long of a tax abatement are you gonna ask the city for?
10 years.
10 years.
Over 10 years, you know, it'd be 10% a year, so.
So when we're sitting here in June, we're gonna hope that we have a stack of information, right? And dirt moving end of June?
Yeah, like I don't know, I did forward you the message from Brett. The plans are 85, 90, 80, they were 80% done on Monday, so I'd assume they may be, you know, 85 or, and he's said that he would have the foundation where he could send it for foundation release before the end of the month, I mean, before the end of next week.
So here's what I'm gonna ask from you, and I'll do this publicly now. When you get all that stuff, I want you to forward it to me. So all it's doing is it's gonna show that we're still moving. And that's been my frustrating, and we've talked about this, that's been my frustration.
I mean, you know, but where else do you go when a commercial appraisal takes 6 months?
I'm not arguing that.
I know, I mean, that's, and I can't do anything without that piece of paper.
But we need to make sure that this
Right.
thing is progressing, and that's been the frustration. I mean, it's been
Absolutely.
the frustration. And as I told
I
you the
don't
other
blame
day,
I don't blame any of you at all. I mean,
it puts
you know,
me between a rock and a hard place, because we want it done, and we
Yeah.
want it done ASAP, and I think we've kind of missed some timetables already from some potential things coming into the community, but we just need to keep the information rolling so we know there's a firm commitment. Because, as you well know, I mean, we could pull it, but I don't really want to do that.
I understand, and
So-
you know, and you guys have been great to work with, and I'm not, but but the same thing, you gotta understand, how's to go borrow $4 million and figure out how you're gonna, you know, make sure that it's gonna fluctuate. 10% is $400,000, you get the end, and you gotta write another check for 400 grand.
And I understand that, but
You know, that's-
we have to keep getting the information.
I understand.
And because at least we know there's a commitment. If things are happening, we know they're happening. If there's delays, we get it. We get the delays.
What would your completion date be if you started this month?
What was the question, Aaron?
Completion date?
We're gonna try to do it in 10 months, so probably 10 months to a year, so.
So you're looking at spring of 2023.
That just, right now, I think that, because I do think labor's gonna start freeing up here. I can already see the handwriting on the wall, a couple of things. You know, there's a few things starting to happen, you know, they're gonna tighten up money a little bit more, and so I don't think, the only thing we can't control is what petroleum does, and that's gonna affect everything on the house, you know, in the buildings, one way or the other, everything from roofing all the way to the pipe that's in the ground, so.
Anybody have any other questions?
Eager to see it move forward.
So June, we're going to see some serious movement now.
Well, I hope.
It'll be on the agenda again next month, so just put that on your date on the 22nd of June. How's that, Ron?
Very much so.
All right. And it'll be on the agenda till it's done. One way or another.
Well, I hope that when it's on the agenda, when you start seeing pictures of people's stuff, and they won't be hard for you to understand what's going on.
Well, I'll see it. It's right behind me, so I'll see it. Okay, no other questions for Ron? Thank you, Ron.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
So, going on to the other project we've been working on, which is the Forest Canton Heights subdivision. We've been working through some legal timetables to get the property transferred from Perry County Memorial Hospital Board of Directors to the Redevelopment Commission. Chris and I were on a call Friday of last week with the attorney and with Baker Tilly to have this discussion on how and what we can do. So Heather with Ice Miller, she's got the schedule put together and we're in process. I think we're still waiting on some appraisals.
Yes.
And I had a conversation about that today too. So the appraisal should be coming. One of the questions that we had, and we talked about it at our meeting the last time, is who's going to own and control the property. And it looks like the Redevelopment Commission is going to take total control of the property at all times. So as property sells, it's going to have to come to this board, which may be a little bit of a deal, but I think we can work that pretty streamlined. One of the other indicators was to use a non-for-profit to run that through. We're not going to have to do that. So, which I'm actually glad for. And I told Heather that the Redevelopment Commission needs to control the entire process. We do not need anything outside. We do not need anything underground. So this thing is going to be as transparent as possible. So everything that's going to happen is going to be in this meetings. From the sale of the property to the buildings, everything is going to be transparent. So that was good news, I thought. And I think we're still on the schedule. I don't think there's anything we have to amend tonight that I know of, but I think the next meeting we may have some things that we'll have to vote
The
on.
next meeting of the one in
July. I think it's July.
One of the two, I can't.
Because there's some timetables that we have to run through to do all this in terms of the appraisals and announcements and that sort of thing. So, but I left that on the agenda because I wanted everybody to know that Redevelopment Commission will actually own that property outright, and it's going to stay that way. Any thoughts on that, folks?
My only concern is that makes us a developer.
No, it doesn't. Does not make us a developer.
We're developing the property.
Huh?
We're developing the property.
Yeah, but we are a government entity. Even if it went for the non-for-profit, we would still be the developer technically. And we had these conversations with Heather.
Yeah, you'll have to bid, you will be bidding out.
We will have to bid out, which we were going to do anyway.
Yeah.
Because we have to keep it transparent, and that's the beauty of the Redevelopment Commission. If people want to know what's going on, they can come to the meeting, they can watch the video, or they can read the minutes. Okay, there's nothing to hide. So,
Is it any different than developing the Wapaka property of the RDC and the Northern Perry County LLC group? Is it any different than that?
well, with us, it's going to be RDC development.
It would have been the same if we'd gone with
The LLC?
not
But
yet.
yes,
the
with the
not-for-profit.
LLC.
But in this particular case,
It's not.
it's not, because we'll do it all through the RDC. It
So
just
all-
means a few more hoops the RDC has to jump through.
As we sell properties.
That's
As we
right.
sell properties.
That's right, as you sell property.
So technically, as we sell properties, we have to have appraisals and we have to vote on it.
That's
Okay.
the extent of the addition.
Well, yeah, what you do is you do a public notice.
Right.
Like we did with the property that Ron bid on. You do a public notice where you accept bids, and if the bids come in less than the appraised value, then you can basically sell them for whatever price you think is appropriate, which we already know what that price is going to be.
Yeah. So it's going
And
to
then you
require a little more
include your
work. The commission's going to have to do a little more work.
The hope is that, well, this is Chris talking, just for you guys' sake, the hope would be that people would buy multiple lots. So you don't have to have
As many.
as many.
But I
But
think,
that's one of our discussions, is that we're not gonna let one person come in.
Buy it all.
We got 17 lots, we're not gonna let one person buy them all.
no.
Well,
We're not gonna, we hope not.
I thought 26 lots.
Now, if they want to end up owning them all eventually, they can, but we're not going to do it all at one time because we want them developed as quickly as
Like a
possible.
lottery maybe.
Yeah. we
Well, I
would-
mean, if they say, yeah, we'll come in and build 17 houses in a year.
That's different.
That's a different story. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. But we don't want them to buy lots and sit on them.
Sit on them. That's
Correct.
right.
That's
I
correct.
We want the AV as
As-
fast as
as quickly as-
possible.
as quickly
Hopefully
as
on
we can.
2024 tax roll.
Yes.
You know, so it's going to require a little more work, you know, from the commission. But I think when you outweigh the transparency and you outweigh all the scuttlebutt that's been happening on some of this other stuff that sits out there, this is going to keep it as clean as possible.
And when you say we're gonna sell maybe more than one,
There's a possibility,
okay,
yeah.
now if we do that, do we require a property, I mean, something built on each lot, or are we gonna,
We'll
allow
have
one
it.
homeowner to buy one just so they have a lot
No,
free?
no. We're not going to allow homeowners to buy a lot for grass. These are going to be everyone's going to be developed. Yeah, that's not this kind of an area.
That's part of the proposed.
That'll have to be part of the
contract.
covenant.
Yes, that'll be part of the covenants, correct.
So that's gonna go in here?
That'll have to go in there
Okay,
eventually.
that-
Yeah, that within X period of time after the lot is purchased, you have to have a home under construction.
And we're not going to transfer deeds until houses are built. I mean, the house will be standing when we do deed transfers. That's my plan.
You're gonna have to do something to get financed.
I was gonna say, that's,
We're working on the legal side of that.
Because
It may be a letter of commitment or something.
they won't even do a construction loan probably.
Yeah,
without
so-
some-
They always want to be first in line.
But that's the direction we're going to go, and then we're going to figure out how to. How's that, Randy?
What I don't know, Randy, is if you can do some kind of a commitment from the RDC to the bank that if the house is built, we will deed the property. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that works.
And I actually asked Heather that same question. She didn't know the answer either, so
Hopefully she'll have it when she comes in July.
Might need to talk to the
that's
bankers.
what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
That's what we're
Do
hoping.
what, Chris?
We might need to talk to the bankers and see what they require.
Yeah, and just put out a memo for all of them.
And hopefully they understand the special situation too, that they can get it through their heads. But that, if we have to go a different route, but at least that, if we have to go a different route, that's all going to be taken care of by this commission.
Their main thing is they don't want to have a $150,000 lot or.
House on a lot that they can't
instead
get.
of a lot they don't own.
That's correct.
Right.
So clearly, if they're making that type of commitment, then you guys, if you've got that all in place.
Well, and Randy,
transferring the title
it,
may not be a big
it's
deal.
similar to what Ron is going through right now on the apartments, because he does not have the deed. The commission still has the deed, and Chris wrote a letter to the bank to say, look, here's how it's going to work, and obviously for a $4 million project, they've approved that.
That's
So
work.
I'm thinking that we can work that out,
That's similar.
yeah. That when it happens, the deed will be transferred because he has technically, in this case, paid for it and such, so,
It'd be like a memorandum of understanding or something.
something, yeah, that's.
Lot 10 will be transferred. at
And,
this-
and the reason for that thought process is I don't think we want to let too much uncontrol of the ownership of that property before it's actually done what's supposed to happen on it. I'm not saying that we don't trust people, but people have to do what they're supposed to do. And that's the transparency part too. So, anyway. So there'll be more to come at the next two meetings. We'll keep, this item will stay on the agenda so we can keep everybody updated on where we stand from a legal standpoint. Bill has a few things on the covenants that he's been working through.
Well, these aren't much different. I have copies up here. The first 2 pages is basically what we're going to include for sure. The 3rd page is some more suggestions. You just threw another one at me right there, so how we're going to word that as far as the covenants are concerned. I didn't get anybody to email me or anything or send me any suggestions, so anyway, I'm going to have to get with Chris and see how we're going to word the, what you just said about the lots and the time frame and so forth. So anyway, it's not much different from the last time. I did add a couple things to the first 2 pages, and then the 3rd page is just suggestions.
It's a lot more, it's more simplified, Bill.
Yeah, we try
We're
to
not being
keep
too
it.
restrictive.
Yeah, we don't want to just stifle everything, but on the other hand, you want to keep certain things in there. If you have suggestions, I'm open to it, we'd like to get this, as we go through this process, to get the covenants finalized, and I can let Chris take a look at it, make sure everything's okay.
So our timetable on that is July.
To have it
July
all
meeting.
finalized?
What's that?
To have this finalized by
Yes.
July?
July meeting.
Okay.
JK Forever
I
Home.
think I saw on
I did.
Island.
I've read through those, and then I've got another one
They can
here on
link from April 1st,
subdivision
October 1st, or
land.
something.
Yeah,
They
I
could-
saw that too.
But on,
Just look at
in
some
this
of the
one, the
things
streets are gonna be narrow enough
that
that
they
we
included,
we're
and
gonna try, I think we need to keep that in, prohibit.
HOA fee.
Paul asked, said something about boats and trailers on the street,
In writing.
and it's, we have it kind of in our proposal.
No.
Um,
No. I know.
I think the Highland has it from
No.
April 1st, October, they
This is what I
like the
built.
driveway, I think.
Right.
Yeah, in the driveway.
Areas,
But if
And
you have
for-
a
you
park,
have some.
if you have a park, if you have a
Possible.
park, if you have a
Yeah.
park, you need HOA fees.
And then the driveways, I mean, the roadways, but since the roadways are county roads, you won't need them for
That's,
that.
that which is the plan. The plan is to have the county take
If
the
you're
roads.
if you're gonna have a common area, and somebody gets hurt in the common area, I don't know who they're gonna sue. But that
Well,
was-
so,
Our goal isn't the common area, our goal is for construction. It's gonna be nice to have a park, but it could also be another home.
yeah, so when Kenny, I talked to Kenny this week on the, well, he's got the elevations done, he's finalizing all the utilities right now. I think he has finalized the water runoff, so he told me in the middle of June, he's gonna have that completed, so we'll actually see that at the next meeting. And that's gonna tell us what, he told me he ended up having to use a couple of lots for dry dam water control. So we may have to pick that up on what we had on the common area, I'm assuming. So we still need to try to stay at 28 lots or more. That's where we need to be.
Is that, Chris, is something we can mention to the Perry County Parks and Recreation Department?
As far as them
Use that
taking
as a
over
park.
it.
Taking over if it's.
Well, it wouldn't be city,
designated
that'd be
park
county.
area.
That's
Perry
what I mean,
County.
Perry County Parks and
Yeah,
Rec.
Perry County.
Is that a possibility, or is it even up for
Yeah, I mean,
discussion?
they can accept, whether they would or not, I don't know, but they can accept
Yeah,
any
just
property that somebody
start
wants
the
to deed to
conversation.
them as a park. Because it will need to be obviously at least mowed,
Right.
Yeah.
if nothing else.
So
How
we'll,
many acres was it, John? It was, you remember?
it's right there in the center. It's not very much.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not very
An
much.
acre, maybe?
Not even. I don't think it
it's
is.
even an acre.
I don't think it is.
No,
And again,
but
we
if-
may.
I don't know if if you're gonna put a playground or something
know.
on it. That's a liability, which the county has playgrounds and they've got that liability and they have insurance for it. But if you're gonna have it in a common area that's owned by who, I don't know, and we don't wanna own it.
No, I'm,
The
susp-
RDC doesn't wanna own
I'm
it.
honestly suspicious, Tony, it's gonna end up being houses.
We could put a,
I think this is gonna go so well that we're not gonna have a choice.
we could put a baseball hitting area facing everybody's glass.
A driving range is a better idea.
Nothing in it for me, but, you
Your
know.
dry dams, you're gonna have somebody maintaining those also, wherever they,
We
You know,
talked
and-
about concrete.
Well, in the work,
the entire area.
No, the dry dam area that he's discussing.
yeah,
For the runoff. We
Not
just
to
don't,
mow
we
it
don't
that
know
way.
yet, we're waiting on Kenny.
yeah.
If anybody sees anything they want to add, just, or suggestions, please let me know.
And Randy, even for that, that's not too big of an issue because we have to deal with mowing anyway. You know, we have, on some of the lots, you get them mowed. So it's not the worst thing
Up
in the
until
world.
they all sell.
Yeah.
And I'm just initially making a comment. The county, as far as I know, doesn't mow any other ground in any other subdivision.
We got.
I am not sure that's something they want to initiate and start doing, and/or picking up the liability. If it did turn into a park, then it would become a public county park.
You know, but he tried to get
Accessible
everyone to cause
by-
good out of everything.
That would be accurate.
That would be the other alternative.
So my
So
sus-
it's not exclusive to that community to think that
Right.
anyone in the county could not, come there and play.
My suspicion is it's gonna end up in houses, honestly. You know, like I said, if this thing works like I think it's gonna work, I think we're gonna need them.
That would be best.
Hmm?
It'd be cleanest, just,
We're gonna keep it open as, in essence for now, for some of the construction activity, that way they have a place to store whatever they need to use, but my suspicion, that's what's gonna end up happening with it.
It cleans it all up.
Which I would like, because that's just more houses, that's more taxes, that's more places for people to live, trying to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish here, which is ultimately that. So number 8, which is gonna be probably the hardest conversation of the day, and I don't think if anything's changed on Ready yet, has it, Aaron, since our last conversation?
No, we have a meeting next Tuesday, and
Are we still at the 850 or better number?
I've got you down for 850 right now, but I think there are some other housing projects that we are working on that.
Well, we really need the 850. I'm just going to tell you.
Do we need multi-family
Huh?
housing too?
So one of my thoughts initially was we could go bond this using the Webb Wheel District. It's not that we can't do it, it's just going to be quite difficult. And it's going to be longer than I anticipated it was going to take to get it done. Partially because, and this is where I found out how Webb Wheel's revenue comes in. Majority of Webb Wheel's revenue comes in on their equipment, not on their property, which changes the whole bond ratings on these bonds. Which would force the county then to assume, I guess, some liability, as they've done with the hospital and some of those on the bonds.
Yeah, they would have to do property tax.
So it's not that it's impossible, it's just not as clean as I thought it should be. Of course, I think things should be relatively clean anyway, which I'm learning a lot about government, by the way. So,
Now, if we could find someone to buy, if we
An
don't have to market
individual.
the bonds, but if you could find a person or entity to buy them without a backup, that'd be awesome.
yeah.
But that's,
I mean, we know we have the revenue, it's just, there's a technical inherent risk,
Your rate will go up substantially.
which means our yield,
that's true.
yes, goes up substantially.
That's true.
And the problem, the other biggest issue that we run into, it's a small underwriting. You know, we're talking $1.2 million is what I was looking at. So it kind of puts us back in the drawing board, which is why I made the comment about the ready. And I know there's still ARP, and I think that's kind of all on a standstill, from what I understand from the letter that Randy sent Schweitzerfest. That's kind of in a standstill. Will any of that come through? I don't know. You know, we keep hoping that it does. So there's a couple other thoughts out there. One is we could try to cash flow the best that we can with funding that comes in off of the TIF revenues that come in. I think we could do it mathematically. It's just going to take longer because it's going to stretch the whole thing out. The biggest single expense in this whole thing is the road. In essence, the blacktop or concrete. That's the biggest single expense.
We've got a contractor that won't be paid full front.
And we may have to piecemeal. Because the dirt work to get it into grade is not going to be a big deal. It doesn't sound like it's going to take much, and it's going to be very inexpensive, relatively speaking. You know, so if we would do it step meal through, but the problem is it's going to stretch this project out for a longer period of time than we really want it to.
You know, and a lot of subdivisions will put a base coat down,
Yeah.
and then they don't do the top coat till the houses are.
Which is what we would do anyway.
Yeah,
Which we would do
that
anyway.
would spread it out.
Yeah. That's why I'll get the math from Pam to see kind of how long, and then try to start narrowing down some numbers. Of course, this whole asphalt thing has been moving like everything else has been moving very, very quickly. So the other thing, if there's any other potential funding, you know, I think we need to explore that if it's through grants. And I know probably the biggest extra in the county would be the ARP potentially. So anything that we could find to make this project go, we really need to know, and we're really, really interested in. So that's kind of where so that could put us on a stall. I do not want to stall this thing if I don't have to. I think we have to keep the momentum going on this project. I think the need is there, as we were chatting with Ron on the apartment complex. You know, we've kind of missed the boat a little bit on this thing, and he and I have had this conversation that depending on what Wapaka, the number of employees Wapaka does end up bringing up here from Tennessee, we have no place for these people to go. They're going to go live someplace, and we may have missed that opportunity to get them in our community. Because if they go to Spencer County, they ain't moving out of Spencer County. They go to cross the river somewhere in Kentucky, the odds are they're going to get established and they're going to stay. That's why I've been adamant about that, and I'm adamant about this, because here's our chance. We got a little chance here to get something going. You know, we've been losing some population. We need to keep increasing population from the standpoint of people paying taxes, owning their home, and working here. So we need to find revenue sources for this project. And I'm estimating we need to be somewhere around $1 million to $1.1 million total, all in. That seems to be kind of the number, so.
Okay, John, when a property is sold that you provided TIF funding to, do those funds revert back to your organization? Do you know?
I do not know I don't know the legal answer. Do you know the legal answer to that?
Money comes in,
The TIF money was used to develop them, the project is sold, does the money return then to the redevelopment?
it would be redevelopment commission money.
Money back?
We were hoping,
Now, part of that money is gonna go to pay the hospital.
correct.
On our project, but he's talking about project in general, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, in general. Well, yeah, like that 50,000, whatever dollars it was that Ron is going to pay for the lot, that is redevelopment commission money.
Okay. My point is the chair factory, I understand, is gonna be sold sometime this summer, maybe later part of the summer. And I had Pam look at the amount of money that the TIF money was used, 920, 930,000, I don't remember the exact number, was put into that project to develop it. And if it's sold, I would assume that money then would revert back to the redevelopment. That could be a funding source for there without all the encumberment of all of these other bonds.
And if that was the case, with that plus what we have coming in, we could fund it.
Depends on who owns the building too, which I don't know the answer to that. Off the top of my head. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I thought.
So, but that's still it's still TIF dollars was used on
Well, yeah, I don't,
Term.
pardon me?
It's term.
It's TIF replacement dollars,
Yeah.
but it's still TIF dollars. I don't
What's the
think the
difference,
source of
Pam?
the funds matters, I think who owns the facility is what matters.
Oh,
I really don't.
oh, I was curious what the difference between TIF replacement and
There was,
TIF.
I used to know and I don't anymore.
Okay.
There was some special circumstance that occurred, the legislature did some TIF replacement money, and I don't remember
So-
what that was for.
it. So if I'm understanding correctly, if it's not in our name, we potentially lost $1 million on that project?
No, I don't think that's a fair way to characterize it.
Okay, so characterize it for me, because
The
it's
TIF
real
money
dollars.
was used to, as I understand it, the TIF money was used to build a warehouse that was used for logistics for Wapaka. And now, when that building is sold, that money will be to the owner of that property, who will then use it for further redevelopment efforts. That's my understanding.
Wow, I want one of those deals.
So,
Pick me in-
when that building, so who owns the building
I think it's called the
technically?
Perry County L.
Okay, so when they did that, I'm just asking for an education. Did we just give it to Wapaka, did they pay rent, or what did they do?
They paid rent.
And they paid rent to
That's my understanding. I don't know.
to Northern Perry County?
That was 7 years ago or something. I don't remember.
I mean, something doesn't seem right there. If Ron comes in here and he wants $4 million, are you guys gonna give him $4 million of our tax TIF money, which is property taxes, to him? He develops his apartment, then he decides in 2 years he wants to sell it, and he pockets all the money that you gave him through TIF dollars? Something doesn't add up.
Well, that's a little different than what happened here, because Northern Perry County is an LLC owned by PCDC, which serves the county. It's not a private developer.
Okay, I guess I can talk, right?
Sure you can.
Okay, you said it's owned by PCDC, North Perry County is owned by PC?
That's correct.
PCDC?
That is correct.
Who's their board of directors, it's an LLC?
It's an LLC.
Okay, who owns it?
It's owned by PCDC.
Exclusively by PCD?
That's my understanding.
Okay, it's not the individual directors then?
No,
Or the other people that are part of the LLC?
it's owned by PCDC.
So it's owned by an entity. So the other thing, Charlie, as you guys are deciding on the ARP money, just make sure you keep us in the loop. Because I don't know where that even stands today. Because we had originally asked for 600,000 from the ARP.
Well, you didn't put in an application, you sent us a letter, didn't you?
Yeah, but we were told we didn't have to use the application process because it was a different deal versus a
Right, because
non-for-profit.
That was going to
Yeah,
come down the line possibly later in infrastructure.
that's what I was told.
Yeah.
And I was told that by commissioners as well as some of the council members. So that's how we responded to
I think the
it,
way, when we first divided it up, it was nonprofit, small business.
which is where the
and-
application process was,
Right,
correct?
That was
Yes.
the application process.
So, but I mean, we're still gonna have to figure out where we can get funding. So, you know, so the worst thing is we're gonna cash flow it. And that's the worst thing that's gonna happen, I think. Because I don't think we want to let the project die, do we?
No.
I don't think anybody did.
I think that's a definite no from everyone. So we're gonna have to get smart and figure out where we can get funding. Now I'll ask this, is that something that potentially PCDC could help fund, Aaron? I don't know.
Talk about it.
I mean, it's worth it. I've learned a long time ago, it's always worth to ask, right?
All they can say is no.
So if anybody can come up with any other grants, ideas, cash anywhere, let us know. Because, again, I'd really hate to be having this conversation in 2024. I don't want to have the conversation in 2023, because I want to have things rolling by 2020. But actually, I'd really love to be moving dirt this fall, which I think we could actually possibly do if we piecemeal it out. Because we have to show the community that we have a commitment to getting this thing done.
Who's in charge of the ready funds, like, or is,
That's
do they not have any say?
that's a whole, it's several
Well, I
counties.
explained this at the last meeting you were at, but I'll explain it again. Okay. Ready, the state of Indiana created the Ready program. In order to be able to take part in the Ready program, you had to either be part of an RDA, which we are not, or you could apply through a private, not-for-profit that was regional, that included representation from more than just one county. We are a part of SWIDAC, which includes like 11 counties. That was our only opportunity to do it. And SWIDAC's board of directors, per its bylaws, are the LEDOs, the local economic development organizations for each member county. So the board of directors of SWIDAC is each county's.
Which for Perry County, you're ours then?
Yes.
Okay. So and it was 15 million, the whole group was awarded, correct?
Yes, and the state is taking 30% off the top of that for their administrative.
Aren't they happy?
Yeah, because they only have a $5 billion surplus, why wouldn't they?
There is another 3 to 4% off the top of that for grant administration, legal services, financial, and we're left with about 14 million for 5 counties.
So they're,
I've tried to learn about it.
so they're in the process now of
And I
trying to break
offered
that
to
up.
meet with you, and I would be more than happy to sit down and meet with you and talk about it.
So right now, they're in the process of trying to figure out what they want to fund out of those counties, correct?
So a formal plan has not yet been,
Well, we
For you.
submitted a plan as part of like our entire,
as the proposal to receive the
Right.
funds.
and then we found out after we submitted that the state is using ARP funds, their federal ARP funds to fund it. So then that made everything that ARP money has to be used on now, ready money, you go by the same exact.
Put restrictions on there. you didn't know.
Well, the
Right.
state, when the state released it, I don't think they knew how they were gonna fund it either. And they
Okay.
made the decision that they were going to use their federal ARP funds, so it is subject, so like when you talked about bidding out, if you use ready funds at all, I mean, we'll have to bid out.
And I'm fine with all that.
Yes, and it is, a lot. But, like I said, I mean, I still, the RDC project is in there, and I do have it, a number, I'm doing my very best to reserve as much of that 14 million for Perry County as possible.
And that's what we can ask.
I'm trying to get as much as I can that will come back here, and if it doesn't, as much as we would love go to just the RDC project, the goal is to housing. Like it is the same goal that you guys have, is trying to get more and more housing, assessed value, places for people to live.
So Aaron, if I understand right, like the federal prevailing wage would be a requirement for any project, correct?
Yes, it is, but we are still continuing to get clarification from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation on how it will apply on a project by project.
And I'm okay with that.
So they've not said specifically that they have to have
So-
a certified grant administrator over this? Well, they do have to have a certified grant administrator?
Yes, we do. At first, we put out an RFQ, and then they told us, then we received guidance from the state that needed to be an RFP. So we have an RFP out for an official grant administrator. Of course, we have worked up until this point with Region 15, because they're here and represent all the counties. But those responses are due back like June 12th and 20th. And then we'll be able to make our official selection of our grant administrator, and there is a grant portal that the state has created. And then we'll be able to start to run projects through, and I anticipate that the first projects that run through will be like anything, and we'll figure out all the complexities that will go with each project and how we'll fund certain, we have funded construction.
So there we are. Not the news I wanted to know, but in terms of some of the obstacles we've come across from a financing standpoint, but I don't think we're gonna, as long as I sit here, I don't think we're not gonna let it go. We're just not gonna let it go. So,
John, do you have any economic development funds that at your disposal? But we do have a tax that funds that.
on the, you're talking about, that would be the edit tax, or the?
Well, the edit is one of them, but I mean, it's geared, part of it's spent in the roads and that.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably say no, but I'm gonna find out. Because I think they've been pretty good between the county and the city of using the funds that are coming in on a consistent basis. So I don't know if anything would be available unless you know something about that, Charlie. Okay. I'm gonna find out. I mean, I'm exploring everything I can explore, Randy.
If it's a funding mechanism that you have access to.
Yeah.
Or you can get approval to use, then you can go back with your bond issues, and you've got a taxing entity to guarantee it.
In essence, what she told us, if we decide to go down that route, the county is just gonna have to approve that we could use tax dollars, property tax dollars, to cover the bond if the bond would default.
I think that was a commissioner approval.
Or commissioner approval, I'm sorry, commissioner approval. So if for some reason Webb Wheel jerked all of their equipment out of here and we had nothing to tax them on, which is the risk.
That's their risk.
That's the biggest risk, because you can't really move the building so much, but you can move that property. Then the county would say, yeah, we're gonna cover that bond. You know, with the dollars we're looking at, I don't believe we would have to go out that long knowing the cash flow that comes in anyway. So I think we could minimize the risk by reducing the time frame and try to pay it as quickly as possible, which is one of the main mechanisms we decided to pay off the Webb Wheel bonds to start with. You know, if we have the cash, why not pay the bonds off? And that was the idea behind that. So it frees it all up a little bit more, which is why earlier in the meeting we were talking about pass-through. If we don't pass through, we will have access to the $200,000 or $300,000 a year at least. You know, and mathematically, that's 3 to 4 years of that money, if you will, if we have to cash flow it. But I don't think we want to wait that long. So if we can get something from either ARP or Ready, something is better than nothing, and then we can at least put this thing together. And try to keep it as simple as possible, which I'm finding out is not as simple as we want it to be, so. Is there anything else that we need to discuss on this? It's the last item on the agenda, so. I will say, and you all, commissioners, county council, city council, Carol and I have been putting together it's a letter, but it's more of an explanation of what and why. We're getting it finalized, so hopefully in the next week we'll have that out and we'll have it out to the public. Our plan is to get it in the newspaper to talk about this project, and also to talk about, it talks a lot about the reason why we have to grow as a community. So we're pretty close, I think, to getting that put together. So that'll be going out, so be expecting that over the next few weeks. And anybody that wants a copy, all you have to do is ask, but we're going to get that out. We're going to try to stay in front of this thing so everybody knows what's going on, so we don't have any issues like we had in one of the council meetings, which was perturbing, but, so everybody knows what we're doing. So again, we're going to keep this thing open and up in front of people, so. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. You got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you all. We'll see you the 22nd.
Is that fair, John?
4 o'clock. Yep, 4 o'clock.
And I will get this out.
All right.